This is a video covering the data logging procedure in LabVIEW. I'm specifically looking at how we log data to a text file that is formatted in a way that's easy to use in Excel. So I have a sample program set up, and it allows me to save a file in memory. And I'm going to specify an extension here of .csv, which might be something you want to hard code into yours. So I'm going to give it a name .csv. That's a comma-separated values file that functions as a text file from LabVIEW's view, and it looks just like an Excel file to Microsoft Excel. So it works really well in both cases. So we're going to create that file in memory, and then I'm going to provide some data here, and we'll let this run for a few seconds and then go look what that file looks like in memory. So we have what looks like an Excel file, and each data logging step creates a new row of data, and each of the three pieces of information that I passed to the file is understood to be its own piece of information by Excel. So that's what we're hoping to do with LabVIEW. In order to implement this, we have to use file IO commands. So we need to open a file, write to a file, and close the file. And we also need to do some work to collect our data in a format that we can write with. So there's a few things that are new here. So I'm going to bring up my context help, which might help you follow along. And then I'll show you where we find all these on the functions toolbars. This is a flat sequence structure, and it contains frames that are performed sequentially from left to right. So this is my first frame. Everything is done in this frame before it moves to the next. Because I have a while loop with the stop button here, this will continue to be implemented until the stop button's pressed, and then I won't close the file until we get to this final frame. So that's a flat sequence, and it's particularly useful when you want things to happen in a certain order. This forces LabVIEW to do that. The file IO commands are open a file, and you can either open existing files, replace existing files, or create new files, or some combination of those. So this is our open file tool. Then we can write to a text file using this command here. It's very specific. It only works with text files, which is why that CSV extension is so important. And then this is closing. So if I bring up my functions, under the Programming Structures palette, you'll find the flat sequence. In the Programming File IO palette, you'll find open, close, and write. So the way this is wired up, the most important things on open are to set a file path if you wish to require the user save in a particular location or use a particular extension, and then set this access. Is it open, create, or write? I'm sorry, that's the operation. The last thing you can set is the access. LabVIEW by default gives read-write access to the file. You can set that to be only read or only write if you wished. And then this ref num is what comes out. That's the location in memory of the file. So we're going to have to pass that along to each tool. And each tool finds the file using that reference number. The other thing that we have to do is generate a string. And so let me find that tool here on the Functions toolbar. On the String palette, you'll find a tool that is Format into String. And this allows me to have as many inputs as I want. And it defaults to floating point inputs. And then I can format them however I want. So I can add commas between each value. I can add a new line signifier at the end. I can change my precision or field width. So that's the gist of that tool. So what I have here is that format into string with input at 1 and input 2 as my top two pieces of information, and then the loop number as my third piece of information. Let's imagine we wanted to know the timestamp. I could find the timestamp on the timing tool palette, get date time string. So I'll add this in. Oops. And I can add inputs here. And it will update the type for its input. When I set my format string, if you don't have anything up here initially, which is default, you make all your edits in this screen. So add your commas, and a \n will put a new line in after every string. You click OK, and that prompts the creation of that formatting string. What comes out of here is input 1, comma, input 2, comma, I, comma, date, comma, time, new line, and that gets written to the file. The delay just helps me to have some time between each data logging step. And so that's the gist of how you log data in LabVIEW.